One of the most shocking and mysterious cases in Canada's criminal history remained unsolved for nearly half a century. Despite many people losing hope of ever learning the truth, the victim's parents never stopped fighting for justice. Just recently, thanks to advancements in forensic science and modern technology, this vexing case was finally cracked. Sharron Prior was born in the winter of 1959 in the picturesque city of Montreal. Her mother, who was born in Great Britain, had immigrated to Canada with her family at a young age and spent her entire life there. It was in Canada that fate brought her together with her future husband, George, who served in the Canadian Army. The young couple fell in love at first sight and soon got married. Shortly after their firstborn child, Sharron, came into the world. Just a couple of days before the little girl's second birthday, her mother gave birth to two more children, twins named Doreen and Maureen. In 1962, George was transferred to the city of Manitoba for military service, where he moved with his family. Their new home was located in one of the city's older neighborhoods, which was nevertheless considered quite safe and peaceful. Sometime after the move, the couple welcomed another child, a son they named George Jr. Unfortunately, soon after, problems began to arise in the family, and the tension in the relationship reached a critical point. As a result, in 1965, the couple decided to divorce. George continued his military service and was often away, while his ex-wife and 4 children moved into an apartment in the city of Langley, which they were provided through a special assistance program for military families. It was a quiet and cozy place, ideal for raising children. The woman had no idea that even in such peaceful neighborhoods, true monsters in human form could be lurking. From childhood, Sharron was an incredibly kind, caring, and compassionate girl. She was always ready to help those in need, whether it was a person or a defenseless animal. The girl often picked up stray cats and dogs off the streets, especially those that had suffered from human cruelty or illness. She lovingly cared for them, nursed them back to health, and only then sought new owners for them. Sharron adored animals and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian in the future. In addition, the girl was passionate about sports and creativity. She attended a hockey club, art classes, and even took needlework lessons. It seemed that a wonderful future full of bright events and accomplishments awaited her. Her mother couldn't have been more proud of her eldest daughter, who was growing up to be independent, responsible, and sensible beyond her years. Sharron always tried to avoid bad company and trouble, but unfortunately, even this did not save her from a fatal encounter with true evil. In 1975, life was going on as usual for the Prior family. 16-year-old Sharron, like all teenagers, was facing typical problems and difficulties for her age. She loved trendy music and stylish clothes, which her parents did not always approve of. In addition, the girl had started dating a boy named John, who had been in love with her since the 4th grade. He had finally managed to win Sharron's heart, and the young couple began seeing each other. They often hung out with friends and seemed like the perfect match. Seeing their sincere feelings, the girl's parents supported the relationship. According to Sharron's mother, she and her daughter never had any serious arguments. There was always mutual understanding and respect between them. The girl was surrounded by only good people, but even they could not protect her from the terrible tragedy that shattered the life of the entire family. March 29, 1975 began like any ordinary day. Sharron woke up and had breakfast while her mother was out shopping for Easter groceries and gifts. Upon returning home, the woman brought the purchases inside, and her eldest daughter helped put them away. This day was supposed to be special for the whole family. The mother's friends were planning to visit with their son Stephen, as well as her boyfriend. Sharron spent most of the day painting Easter eggs and preparing for the holiday. Stephen arrived before the other guests and played with the girl's younger brother. After school, Sharron and Stephen were going to stop by the local sports association, which, in addition to sports, also did needlework. The girl was supposed to pick up a special jacket there, which was called Leo, named after one of the organization's founders who had died of leukemia. This jacket was a symbol of membership in the association, but it was not simply handed out. To earn such a reward, children had to prove themselves, for example, by selling lottery tickets. Sharron really wanted to deserve this jacket and managed to sell enough tickets. Therefore, she eagerly and proudly went to the association to collect her prize. But disappointment awaited the girl. There was no jacket in her size available. Saddened, Sharron had to return home empty-handed with Stephen. However, she did not lose her festive mood and decided to pick up the jacket another time. Upon returning, the girl joined her mother and her boyfriend, Doug, helping them with the final preparations. When all the guests had gathered, a wonderful holiday dinner took place. Afterward, Sharron and her mom hid painted eggs around the house for the younger children to have fun searching for later. Then the girl asked her mother for permission to go to the local Marina Pizzeria, which was a popular hangout spot for teenagers and was located not far from their home. The woman had already allowed her daughter to go there with friends many times before, so this time was no exception. Sharron went to her room to get ready. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, a neighborhood girl stopped by the Prior's house. She sat with Sharron and chatted while the latter was getting dressed to go out. Our story's heroine borrowed one of her mom's sweaters and put on her favorite suede jacket. At 6:30, the girls left the house, but Sharron went to the pizzeria alone. The neighbor changed her mind about accompanying her. The girls said goodbye and each went their separate way, one home and the other to meet up with friends. A whole group of young people had already gathered at Marina, waiting for Sharron. But for some reason, she did not show up at the appointed time. The teenagers figured the girl had simply decided to take a little walk with her boyfriend, JN, so they continued their merry feast, unaware that something bad had happened. At this time, JN and a few friends were at home watching a hockey match. When the game ended, the boys also headed to the pizzeria, hoping to find Sharron there. But she never came. JN was extremely surprised because he hadn't seen his girlfriend since school and had no idea where she could be. Like the others, he thought that after the match he would definitely find Sharron at Marina. Her absence alarmed everyone present, as it was completely out of character for the always punctual and responsible girl. While Sharron was away from home, her mother put the younger children to bed and spent the evening in front of the TV. The woman began to worry that her daughter had still not returned, even though she should have been home a long time ago. However, she decided not to panic prematurely, assuming the girl had simply lost track of time in the company of friends or with her boyfriend. The mother remained waiting in the living room so as not to miss the moment when Sharron would finally come home. But the hours passed, and the girl was still nowhere to be seen. Around midnight, the woman could no longer contain her fear, as there was still no word from her daughter. It was awkward to call her friends at such a late hour, so the mother had to wait until morning, periodically glancing out the window in the hope of seeing Sharron. At the first light of dawn, the alarmed woman began calling her daughter's acquaintances, hoping to find out where she might be. But neither her girlfriends nor her boyfriend, JN, had any idea about the girl's whereabouts. The mother's worst suspicions were confirmed. That evening, Sharron had not made it to the pizzeria. The neighbor girl with whom they had left the house together confirmed that she had parted ways with Sharron on the street and had not seen her since. A conversation with Mary, Sharron's closest friend, further heightened the anxiety. From her, the mother learned that, after 7 o'clock in the evening, an attack had occurred near the pizzeria on a 23-year-old woman named Cheryl Roy. An unknown man had lunged at her with a knife, but luckily there were people passing by at that moment. Hearing the victim's screams, they scared off the attacker, and he fled in the direction from which Sharron was supposed to come. On June 23, 1975, just months after Sharron's murder, another tragedy struck the quiet community. 14-year-old Debbie Fisher, a cheerful and well-loved girl, vanished while cycling home after visiting friends. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the town, already reeling from Sharron's brutal death. A large-scale search was quickly organized, with hundreds of volunteers combing through forests, fields, and trails. After several agonizing days, Debbie's lifeless body was discovered in a wooded area. She had suffered a violent blow to the head, likely delivered by a rock, which had caused her death. The horrifying nature of the crime devastated her family and reignited the community's fear that a dangerous predator was at large. Investigators worked tirelessly, sifting through evidence and questioning anyone who might have seen Debbie on the day she disappeared. Soon, their efforts paid off when a 17-year-old boy was arrested. During questioning, the boy confessed not only to killing Debbie, but also to the murder of Norma O'Brien, a 12-year-old girl whose body had been discovered in 1974. Norma had been found under chillingly similar circumstances, beaten and strangled, with evidence suggesting she had been stalked before her death. Despite the confession, the boy's identity was kept secret due to his age. He was charged with both murders and sentenced, bringing some sense of resolution to Norma's and Debbie's grieving families. However, when investigators carefully examined his alibi for the time of Sharron Prior's murder, it became clear that he could not have been involved. This revelation left Sharron's case once again shrouded in mystery. The notion of a serial predator haunting the community remained a terrifying possibility. Then, in 1981, yet another young girl's murder would deepen those fears. 12-year-old Tammy Leakey disappeared while running an errand near her home. Days later, her partially clothed body was discovered in a wooded area not far from where Sharron's body had been found years earlier. Tammy had been beaten, strangled, and left in a secluded area, echoing the brutal treatment of Sharron and Norma. The similarities among the cases fueled widespread speculation that a single killer was behind the string of murders. Detectives pursued every lead, collecting DNA evidence from Tammy's case in hopes of identifying the perpetrator. However, forensic technology in the 1980s was still in its infancy, and without a suspect to match the DNA to, the investigation stalled. By this point, Sharron's case, along with Tammy's and others, grew cold, leaving families heartbroken and a community still gripped by fear. For decades, Sharron's mother continued her relentless fight for justice. She contacted police regularly, wrote letters to local officials, and kept her daughter's memory alive through interviews and public appeals. Her unwavering dedication ensured that Sharron's case was never forgotten, even as the years dragged on without answers. Then, in 2022, nearly 50 years after Sharron's death, a remarkable breakthrough changed everything. Thanks to advancements in DNA analysis and the emerging field of genetic genealogy, investigators were able to re-examine the evidence collected from Sharron's case. This cutting-edge technology allowed scientists to trace DNA from the crime scene to distant relatives of the perpetrator, eventually narrowing the search to one man, Franklin Romine. Romine, as it turned out, was a career criminal with a long history of violent offenses. During the 1970s, he had been in and out of prison for a string of assaults and robberies. His name had never come up during the original investigation, as he had lived a transient lifestyle, moving frequently between states to evade law enforcement. Tragically, Romine had died in 1982, just 7 years after Sharron's murder, which meant he could never face trial for his crimes. Despite this, investigators were determined to confirm their findings beyond a shadow of a doubt. Romine's remains were exhumed, and DNA extracted from his bones provided an exact match to the evidence collected from Sharron's body. The revelation brought an end to decades of uncertainty, finally solving the case that had haunted Sharron's family and the community for generations. For Sharron's mother, who had dedicated her life to seeking justice, the news came as both a relief and a heartbreak. Though she passed away before the DNA match was made public, her tireless efforts were instrumental in keeping the case alive long enough for modern science to solve it. Sharron's family, while devastated by the confirmation of the killer's identity, found some solace in knowing the truth had finally been uncovered. The murders of Debbie Fisher, Norma O'Brien, Tammy Leakey, and Sharron Prior remain etched in the community's collective memory. While some of the perpetrators were brought to justice, Sharon's case stood as a stark reminder of how difficult it can be to find closure in the face of such horrific crimes. Ultimately, the identification of Franklin Romine underscored not only the remarkable capabilities of modern forensic science, but also the profound importance of persistence in the relentless pursuit of justice. In a case that seemed destined to remain unsolved, the determination of investigators, coupled with the advances in DNA technology, finally brought clarity to a tragedy that had haunted both the victim's family and the community for decades. Sharon's story, though undeniably tragic, serves as a poignant testament to the resilience and unwavering strength of her loved ones. Their tireless efforts to honor her memory and seek answers were driven by an enduring hope, the belief that even the coldest of cases, no matter how much time has passed, can one day be brought to light. Sharon's family, who had lived with the anguish of unanswered questions for years, now finds solace in knowing that, despite the years of uncertainty, justice was eventually served. The resolution of this case not only brings closure to a grieving family, but also highlights the indomitable spirit of those who fight for truth and accountability, no matter how long it takes.